Hey everybody, thanks for joining me as I take a look at some more metal releases that I've recently picked up. So we're going to start off with a classic here. We have Horrified, the debut and to this day only full-length album by Michigan grindcore death metal band Repulsion. So the band formed in 1986. This was recorded in 1986, but wouldn't be released until 1989. Does this have a lot of death metal in it? Yes, but more than anything, it's a grindcore record with metal imagery and lyrics. In fact, Decibel Magazine deemed Horrified the best grindcore album of all time. So this came out again in 1989. I think Necrosis Records put it out. This is a more recent reissue. This is Relapse Records 2010 edition. Kind of bare bones, just an insert with lyrics on single green vinyl. And you know what? As you may know, I'm definitely more of a CD guy than a vinyl, but they've opened a really cool vinyl store close to me, and I'm pretty excited about it, so it's time to get back into buying a bit more of this. And seeing this, it was definitely a glaring omission from my collection. And just for like reference point, 1986, that would be after Seven Churches, but before Scream Bloody Gore. But again, this is not like a death metal album like Scream Bloody Gore or a thrash metal album like Seven Churches. It's more of a grindcore thing, but all these albums are, you know, the roots of American extreme metal for sure. So 18 short songs. What are my favorites? I got to go with The Lurking Fear and the closing title track, Horrified. Next up, a very special album to me that I didn't finally get a physical release on until recently. Omnio by In the Woods. I guess you could consider them an avant-garde black metal band. They released 3 albums in the 90s. This is the second of those 3. Then they reformed in the 2010s, but it seems to be very different music, and I haven't really given it a good listen. But this was originally released on Misanthropy in 1997, and this is a more recent re-release on Soul Cellar Records. Now, when I say I go back with this album, the first time I came across it was upon its release. It had the lead review in Metal Maniacs magazine, the December of, I guess that'd be 1997 issue. So here we go. Here's the review, and it really kind of captured my attention, even though I was like 13, 14 at the time. And I'll try to read through this quickly. The history of the world is full of riddles, and listening to Omnio made me think about the what-ifs ones. What if Bach had entered his practice room one morning to find a wah-wah pedal and a lifetime supply of 9 volts under his piano bench? What if the 1968 Pope had gotten turned on to acid and made psychedelica part of the Christian ethos? Would Pink Floyd be the church processional music of the day? Sally will never know the answers to these questions, but we can take a moment to appreciate the Norwegian band In the Woods who inspired these strange thoughts in the first place. Omnio is the band's second full-length release to date, and it's a big improvement over 1995's Heart of the Ages. It's dropped the black metal shrieking heard on earlier releases, and its theory of opposites, beauty back-to-back with pure rage, has become a more tempered kind of thing. The 2 ends of the emotional spectrum are still represented in each of the compositions, but they're played out in a more classic heavy metal way. No more oversped carnival keyboard parts, no more thin ethereal sections. By using lots of 70s production tricks and instrumental effects, the band has been able to make its compositions simultaneously more dynamic and more simple, with less melodic contrivances. Distortion, sustain, and delay make the music plain out in areas so the instrumentals can kind of skate through the transitions in an effortless way. Additionally, In the Woods has secured a new and accomplished soprano to handle the female vocals, and she's a worthy match for a Norwegian name's goth operatics. The album includes 4 compositions plus the title track with its 3-part saga of super mental proportions. While the songs are really Floydian in structure and production, the instrumental and vocal duets are more akin to neoclassical cold wave acts like Sweden's Arcana. Convincing violin, cello, and piano interweave with the riffs and drum kicks, and the orchestra only drops out in the most heavy metalish parts. Put far better than I could. That was written by Spider, a reviewer that I was a fan of. And I think this album was also Jeff Wagner, another writer that I'm a big fan of. I think it was like his first or second top album of 1997. So yeah, what I like about this is that it's weird, but kind of stripped back. It's not weird like throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's dreamy, spacey. It's kind of like a 90s Norwegian black metal band that would go weird, but those bands would generally keep some black metal. The black metal is pretty much gone from this. But again, I've been intrigued for like decades at this point, and it wasn't until recently where I finally bought a copy. I guess my complaint would be the female vocals. Again, I do like female vocals. I just don't like operatic vocals. I guess they were described there as soprano. Just not really feeling that element of the music. But my favorite tracks on here are probably Weeping Willow and the first part of the closing title track trilogy, the pre-part of it. Because those are the tracks where I think the tasteful, dreamy, but low-key, shreddy guitars really come into focus, and I think they're the highlight of the album. My CD copy here also has the Let There Be More Light 7-inch EP, 2 songs, and in style, pretty similar to the album itself. Okay. Next up, the debut full-length album from Italian speed metal band Bulldozer, The Day of Wrath. Originally released in 1985, but this is a more recent Shadow Kingdom edition put out in 2022. So, early speed thrash with a blackened sound go on to influence generations to come. The biggest influence is Venom and, to a lesser extent, Motorhead. And the Venom is all over this album. However, I prefer the more early, like first 2 album Bathory influence tracks. My fave songs being Cutthroat and The Great Deceiver. I saw them live about 3-4 years ago in Toronto. They played a ton of this album, and I would definitely check them out again. Finally, we're going to look at Jugulator, the 13th album by metal legends Judas Priest, released in 1997 on CMC International. Now, I did do a Judas Priest ranking a while ago, and at that point, I owned every single Judas Priest album except the Ripper ones. Not because I think these albums are horrible, but out of print, and in my experience, they were kind of expensive to buy a used copy of, so I was in no rush. But that day did come. I found a used copy of Jugulator, $6, and don't have a lot to say about it. It's competent, but too 90s, too modern sounding. Some of the courses are really bad. The solos aren't memorable. They don't have the same feeling as, the classic, that's my top guitar team, I'd say. Tipton and Downing, and yeah, they're definitely at a low point here, I'd say. Ripper, got nothing against the guy, very talented, but he's hitting the mark when he's doing the Halford highs, but his mid-range stuff, not into it at all. But it's not a bad album, and the highlights for me are the last two tracks, Bullet Train and Cathedral Spires. Hopefully the day will come where I can find a used copy of Demolition to round out my Priest collection. But that's it for now. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.